So Keith Belt from Colorado State University, you talked a little earlier today when you gave us the BQA data that this is the first time we've seen consumer concerns about production methods, quality, and such move this high up in the rankings. Can you explain that better?
Well, most people, the number one and number two concerns across the 5 sectors of the industry that we conducted interviews with included food safety and then eating satisfaction, usually in that order, but not always in that order. And so it's interesting to us because in all of the previous quality audits, although food safety started to show up as a response in phase 1, perhaps about year 2000, after HACCP had been implemented in the industry, most of us don't really think about food safety as being quality. We talk about food safety separately from quality. And so the fact that it continues to show up in the quality audit became an interesting phenomenon. Secondly, it had always been in the audit. People had noted it and they had made comments about its importance, but it didn't elevate to the position of number 1 or number 2, depending on who you ask, in terms of importance until this 2011 audit. And so all of a sudden, food safety is a quality attribute, and it not only is a quality attribute, but it's at least the number 1 or number 2 most important quality attribute. And of course, the second one's eating satisfaction. Eating satisfaction is something that the industry has recognized as being important. Clear back to the late 1980s when we were actually losing market share and demand for beef at the retail level. I think there's been an awful lot of effort expended to try and improve beef eating quality. And we're starting to see some of the results of that actually show up in the National Beef Quality Audit. Because what has happened is a lot of our effort over the past 10 or 20 years has been directed towards improving beef tenderness, which we all thought was the original thing that would make a decision for a consumer on whether to purchase or not purchase beef. Now all of a sudden the establishments that are the companies that are most closely tied to the consumer, which is food service and retailers, they're now saying that no, tenderness is no longer really the most important thing. The most important thing now is flavor. So the industry needs to continue its efforts to understand beef flavor and what we can do to improve the desirability of beef flavor to consumers. And to their credit, NCBA and the Beef Checkoff has already initiated programs to begin addressing this and find out, okay, what do they like and what do they not like about beef flavor? What are some of the things that we can do from a management practice standpoint to try and capture the attributes of flavor that are important to consumers. One more interesting feature about this that I'll mention, I mentioned it in the presentation today, is that I believe that, and there's some quantitative evidence to back this up, but it appears like we're sort of developing a new culture in the United States and perhaps globally. There's a culture, some people call them food geeks, other people call them food savants. They're artists. They're people that are making food a important part of their daily lives as an art form. And so the beef industry has a real opportunity to capture market share by participating in that sort of this evolution of folks that see food as art. And I believe that going forward, flavor will be a really important component of trying to capture and take advantage of those opportunities that have been presented. So.
Great. So just to reiterate, one thing that you're saying then is that we've achieved the level of tenderness that people have always expected tenderness. It's always been important, but now not only do they expect it, that they just get it. They've stopped worrying about it.
I wouldn't say that we're perfect by any means, because it still shows up in the audit. It's usually the number 2 thing for production sectors of the industry who aren't aware of what's going on with flavor because this is the next audit since 2005. Tenderness still shows up as the number 1 characteristic that we need to address. So I don't mean to demean the importance of beef tenderness. It is something that we've got to keep our eye on the ball on because if we make tough beef, it doesn't matter what the flavor is, people aren't going to buy it. But there is significant evidence that over the past 20 years we have made progress in improving the overall average tenderness of beef and reduced the variability and toughness associated with beef. And so as a consequence of that, it's sort of at the retail and food service levels of the industry seems to have perhaps diminished in terms of importance because perhaps we've addressed it and flavor has been elevated over the top of it in terms of importance to those sectors of the industry.
Okay, thanks for explaining that to us.